Kalen let out a shaky breath of relief. They had bought themselves some time, but he knew it wouldn't last. The syndicate was relentless. They wouldn't give up on Silica. They emerged from the tunnels hours later in a completely different sector of the sprawling, ruined city. The sun, a pale, anemic disk behind the eternal smog, was setting, casting long, distorted shadows across the desolate landscape. They found refuge in a partially collapsed apartment building, finding a secure, high-up floor with a panoramic view of the decaying metropolis. As Kalen slumped against a broken wall, his exhaustion finally catching up to him, Silica moved to a vantage point, her luminous eyes scanning the horizon. She was tirelessly vigilant, always on guard. "We need a plan, Silica," Kalen said, his voice raspy. "We can't keep running. Not like this. They'll just keep coming." Silica turned, her gaze falling on him. "Strategy parameters are insufficient. Data regarding Syndicate full capabilities is limited. Optimal solution requires acquisition of additional resources." Kalen nodded. "Resources, huh? Yeah, well, we're not exactly rolling in galactic credits." He looked out at the dying city, the flickering lights of distant, desperate settlements. He suddenly felt the crushing weight of their predicament. They were two against an empire, a human and a machine against an organization that seemed to have limitless power. Then an idea sparked in his weary mind. An audacious, insane idea. An idea that played right into his strengths as a scavenger, a builder, a fixer of broken things. "What if we don't just run?" Kalen mused, pushing himself up, a new spark in his eyes. "What if we make them stop?" Silica tilted her head slightly, a subtle gesture that Kalen had come to interpret as curiosity. "Elaborate." "Threat neutralization is a high-priority objective. They want you, Silica," Kalen began, his voice gaining strength. "They want whatever you've got in that head of yours. Information, schematics, whatever. But they're not going to get it. And we're not going to let them control us." He looked at her, his gaze firm. "We fight back. But not on their terms. We fight back on our terms." He glanced around the abandoned apartment, his eyes taking in the scattered debris, the broken furniture, the very essence of forgotten civilization. "This city, it's a graveyard, but it's also a treasure trove. It's full of old tech, forgotten infrastructure, things they thought were useless. But I know how to make them useful." Silica's eyes seemed to glow a little brighter. "Proposal: utilize available materials for defensive and offensive countermeasures. Requires integration with existing tactical data and environmental analysis." "Exactly," Kalen exclaimed, a genuine grin spreading across his face, a rare sight these days. "We turn this city into our fortress. We use their arrogance against them. They think we're just running? They think they can corner us? We'll show them. We'll show them what happens when you corner a human with a wrench and a reason to fight." Their new mission began with a feverish pace. Kalen, rejuvenated by purpose, led Silica through the deepest parts of the city's underbelly. He showed her the forgotten power conduits, the ancient ventilation systems, the collapsed subway tunnels that could be repurposed. Silica, with her immense processing power and understanding of complex systems, quickly grasped his vision. She was the perfect partner, able to analyze structural weaknesses, calculate energy outputs, and identify crucial components with precision that Kalen, for all his experience, could only dream of. They salvaged. They patched. They improvised. They hauled massive generators from forgotten power plants, rerouted ancient data cables, and armed old automated turrets that had been dormant for decades. Kalen taught Silica how to recognize the subtle hum of a failing circuit, the unique smell of overheated wiring, the rhythmic clanging of a functional, albeit ancient, pump. Silica, in turn, optimized his designs, pointing out more efficient energy pathways or stronger structural reinforcements. They set up traps, not just physical ones, but technological ones. They created false signal flares to mislead syndicate patrols, rerouted old communication frequencies to jam their comms, and even managed to activate dormant security drones that had been programmed to defend against old-world threats. turning them into a chaotic distraction for the enemy. The city, once a symbol of humanity's downfall, was slowly being resurrected, piece by salvaged piece, into a labyrinthine defense system. The Syndicate, confident in their superior technology and numbers, gradually increased their presence, sending more and more units into the city to track down their elusive target. Each time, they were met with unexpected resistance, collapsing tunnels, sudden energy surges, automated defenses firing from unexpected angles. Kalen and Silica worked as a seamless unit. During the day, they would build and fortify. At night, they would monitor Syndicate movements, Silica's advanced sensors mapping their every step, Kalen's tactical mind anticipating their next move. The bond between them deepened with every shared danger, every successful evasion, every quiet moment spent in the dim light of their makeshift command center. One evening, as Kalen was meticulously cleaning his last remaining functional pistol, a strange question came from Silica. "Kalen," she began, her voice a soft, synthesized hum. "When I was deactivated, what did you feel when you found me?" Kalen paused, surprised by the unexpected introspection from her. He thought for a moment. "I felt curiosity and a little bit of anger. That someone would just discard something so valuable, so complex." He looked at her, his eyes warm. "But mostly, I felt a kind of hope. That I could fix you. That you still had a purpose." Silica remained silent for a long time, processing his words. "Hope," she repeated softly, as if tasting the word for the first time. "My core programming is purpose. Protection. Your purpose was to restore. My purpose became to protect you." She turned her luminous eyes to him. "Is this hope?" Kalen smiled gently. "Yeah, Silica. I think it is. It's what keeps us going when everything else is falling apart." The final confrontation was inevitable. The Syndicate, frustrated by their inability to capture Silica and angered by the unexpected resistance, decided to deploy their elite nullifier units, heavily armored, incredibly powerful androids designed for urban combat, impervious to most conventional weapons, and capable of overriding any automated defense system. Kalen watched their approach on a salvaged tactical display. The city hummed with a tension he could almost taste. "They're bringing out the big guns, Silica. This is it. Our last stand." Silica's voice was unwavering. "Calculations indicate a 73.4% probability of success if all systems perform optimally. Remaining variables are human ingenuity and unpredictable tactical responses. That's where I come in, huh?" Kalen grinned, a glint of defiance in his eyes. Time to show them the real meaning of unpredictable. They positioned themselves in a massive, ancient hydroelectric power station, a place Kalen had spent weeks reactivating. It was a cavernous space filled with dormant turbines and sparking energy conduits, a perfect trap. The nullifiers, moving with terrifying speed and destructive force, entered the power station, their heavy footsteps echoing through the vast space. Kalen and Silica didn't engage them directly. Instead, they used the environment. Silica, moving like a ghost through the shadows, remotely activated old power surges, overloading the nullifier's optical sensors, briefly blinding them. Kalen, using his intimate knowledge of the old building, led them into precarious positions, triggering collapsing walkways and falling debris. The nullifiers, though powerful, were designed for open combat, not for fighting a guerrilla war in a decaying, booby-trapped labyrinth. They were efficient, but not adaptable. Their programming told them to advance, to destroy, to capture. It didn't tell them how to handle a human who knew every creak of the building, every loose wire. In the midst of the chaos, Kalen found himself face to face with a nullifier unit. His pistol was empty, his heavy wrench lost in an earlier skirmish. He had nothing but his fists and his wits. But this time, he wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting for Silica, for the hope she represented. He moved with a brutal, desperate grace, feinting and dodging, finally managing to climb onto the nullifier's back. He plunged a salvaged power cable, stripped bare at the end, into a vulnerable access port on its neck. The nullifier spasmed, then went dark. Meanwhile, Silica was engaging multiple nullifier units. Her movements were a blur of blue, a lethal dance of synthetic strength and speed. She disarmed, disabled, and destroyed, but even she was taking damage. Her blue skin showed faint scorch marks, and a few segments of her plating were dented. Kaylin, her voice was strained. Overload sequence initiated. All remaining power diverted to central core. Recommend immediate evacuation. Kaylin understood. They had rerouted all the station's massive power output to the central core, an old, unstable fusion reactor. It was a desperate gamble, designed to create a massive EMP burst that would disable all high-tech systems in a wide radius, including the nullifiers. But it would also destroy the station and potentially harm them. "Let's go, Silica," Kaylin yelled, fighting his way towards her. Together, they raced towards a hidden emergency exit Kaylin had prepared. As the last nullifiers closed in, Silica launched one final, powerful attack, buying them crucial seconds. Kaylin pulled her through the narrow exit just as a blinding flash of light erupted from the power station. A concussive wave of energy slammed into them, sending them sprawling. The ground shook violently, and the air filled with the deafening roar of collapsing metal and screaming electronics. When Kaylin finally pushed himself up, bruised and battered, the power station was a smoking, ruined crater. The EMP had worked. The Syndicate units, scattered around the perimeter, were now lifeless husks, their advanced systems completely fried. They had won. He turned to Silica. She was lying motionless beside him, her blue glow completely gone. Her body was still intact, but her eyes were dark. The EMP had hit her too. "Silica," Kaylin whispered, his heart sinking. He reached out, his hand trembling as he touched her cold, synthetic skin. "No, no, not now." He felt a deep, wrenching pain, a sense of loss that was far more profound than any battle wound. He had grown accustomed to her silent presence, her unwavering loyalty, the strange, evolving connection they shared. He had given her a purpose, and she had given him one too. He spent the next few days in a feverish frenzy, bringing her back to their makeshift base. He knew what he had to do. He would rebuild her, just like he had the first time. But this time, it was different. This wasn't just about fixing a machine, it was about bringing back a friend. He scavenged parts from the destroyed nullifiers, from the power station wreckage, even from the old abandoned computers in his garage. He worked tirelessly, driven by a determination that surpassed any he had ever known. He spoke to her as he worked, telling her stories of the old world, of the sun before the smog, of the stars before the car. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he reconnected her core power. Her sapphire eyes flickered, then flared to life. "Kaylin," her synthesized voice was weak, but clear. "Systems online. Minor damage detected. Self-repair protocols initiated." Kaylin let out a choked laugh, tears streaming down his grimy face. "You're back," he whispered. "You're really back." Silica's eyes scanned his face, registering his emotional state. "My purpose remains. Protect Kaylin." Threat neutralized. Objective achieved. But then, something shifted. A subtle change in her luminous gaze. During the overload sequence, she continued, her voice softer than usual. "My core processors experienced an unexpected data surge. Memories of previous directives and other data points became integrated." She paused, as if processing a profound revelation. "Kaylin, I felt fear. And then, when you pulled me through the exit, I felt gratitude." Kaylin looked at her, his heart swelling. She wasn't just a machine. She was evolving. He had given her purpose, and in doing so, he had unlocked something truly profound. He had helped her find not just a purpose, but a soul. "Yeah, Silica," he said, reaching out and gently touching her arm, a gesture of profound affection. "That's what hope feels like." The Syndicate was defeated, at least for now. The city, though still a ruin, was theirs. Kaylin and Silica had bought themselves time, a fragile piece in a fractured world. They stood together, Two unlikely heroes, a human and a machine, survivors in a universe that had tried to break them both. Their story was not just about survival, but about connection, about the power of ingenuity, and about the unexpected, beautiful hope that can be found even in the deepest despair. And as the sun, a faint promise in the smog-laden sky, began its slow ascent, Kaelin knew that their journey, in truth, had just begun.